Welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Experience podcast, inside the business, buzz, and brilliance of Black entrepreneurs. Here is your host, Dr. Frances Richards.
What happens in Vegas goes all over the world on Black Entrepreneur Experience episode number 225. Subscribe to our mailing list to receive weekly updates and exclusive content delivered right to your inbox. Go to drfrancesrichards.com. That's drfrancesrichards.com to subscribe to our mailing list and be entered into our monthly drawing. That's drfrancesrichards.com, drfrancesrichards.com to subscribe to our mailing list and be entered into our monthly drawing. We promise we won't spam you or sell your information. Thank you for joining us as we elevate the Black entrepreneur experience by interviewing CEOs, thought leaders, innovative thinkers, and Black entrepreneurs across the globe. I'm your host, Dr. Frances Richards. Named one of Ebony's magazine's Power 100, as seen in Essence Magazine, Parenting Magazine, Ebony Magazine, Sirius XM, TV One, HLN, NPR, Atlanta Journal, Constitution, and the Washington Post. Lamar and Ronnie Taylor makes up the husband and wife power pair behind Black and Married with Kids, the largest independent African-American marriage and parenting site on the web. Joining us is Lamar Taylor. Welcome, Lamar.
Thank you for having me on.
You have such an extensive bio. Why don't you fill in the gaps and share with our audience what you'd like them to know about you and your business?
Sure. So my wife and I, our business originally started as a blog. So back in December 2007, we said, hey, let's create a blog with something that we're passionate about, that we're excited about. So if it takes off 3, 4, 5 years from now, we'll still feel like doing it. And what that was a site around relationships, more specifically around relationships and marriage in the African-American community, how it was viewed inside of the community, how others outside of the community viewed it. And we started that blog and it just quickly took off because there was such a need, right? We kind of spoke into a niche where we had a lot of couples that said, hey, we've been married 20, 30, 40 years. We never see ourselves represented. We had singles that said, my parents have been married 40, 50 years, but I never see positive images of African-American marriages reflected. So the blog took off, and really that was the beginning stages. From that blog, we then learned how to create content. We went from creating content to creating products, right? Now, our first product was a documentary film. And we went on to create 7 documentary films. And then we went from documentaries to ebooks and audio books and online memberships, conferences, cruises, workshops, boot camps, anything you can think of. And what happened is people saw us doing all of that. Then they began to say, hey, you know what, Lamar and Ronnie, can you guys teach us how to do it? So we launched a separate brand, Traffic, Sales, and Profit. And that's where we spend most of our time at nowadays, helping entrepreneurs learn how to drive more traffic, convert more sales, grow more profit, doing a lot of the things that we did with our original brand in order to build a stable business that has what I call CPR, consistent, predictable revenue. And I say that all businesses need CPR, that consistent, predictable revenue. So we help entrepreneurs figure out how to find that, get it, and then build it into their businesses.
Speaking of consistent revenue, talk about consistent revenue with COVID-19.
That's a great conversation and a great question, really, because I think so many businesses have been impacted by COVID-19. But at the same time, what I want people listening to know is that what's often not talked about is there actually been a lot of businesses that have thrived during this time. And most of the businesses that have thrived have been businesses that have done what we've been doing for years, right? That have been tied into the internet, that knew that social media was the way, that knew that they had to leverage more of their business online. And what happened earlier this year is that when everything shut down, what did that do? Right? Malls went down, retail stores had to close, and that forced all of the consumers. They didn't stop buying. They didn't stop buying the way they were buying. So they stopped going to the mall, going to the store, and instead they went on Amazon. They went on these small business websites, right? And they began to purchase from people that they may have never purchased for because they could no longer get the big established brands they had been buying for years. And all these big established brands that really didn't focus online selling, right? Because they had a stranglehold on really retail space, they failed. And a lot of them hurt. And we've seen a lot of those businesses begin to go out of business now. But at the same time, what happened, there are a lot of small businesses that have new clientele, new customers that they didn't have before. And they were able to acquire new customers that they can then begin to leverage, not just for now, but throughout the year. And we also saw the businesses that succeeded were the businesses that were able to pivot. And one of the things I always talk about, Dr. Francis, is the fact that whenever there's crisis, there's also opportunity, right? I want to repeat that to everybody listening. Wherever there's crisis, there's also opportunity. Whenever there's crisis, there's a huge wealth shift on the back end of it. Now, the problem is that normally we're not the ones that actually get a piece and get to hold on to this wealth shift. But that's what we need to start thinking about is that, all right, whenever we see crisis, whenever we see things going wrong, or whenever we see things are in some state of transition, what are the opportunities in that moment that I can tap into, that my business can tap into, and then I can begin to leverage in order to come out of it stronger than I was when we first went into it.
Speaking of brands, talk about a brand or a business that's dominating that you admire and why.
Awesome. All right, talking about a brand that's dominating. Okay, I'm gonna talk about a emerging brand that is blowing it out of the water, and it's called Sassy Jones. And Sassy Jones is originally started as a boutique based in Richmond, Virginia, and they've just catapulted the business over the last 3 to 4 years. And the owner, Sharice Jones, she literally started by, vending, and she had accessories and earrings and bracelets and bangles and things like that, to now she's expanded from reselling other people's items to now creating her own items. On top of creating her own items, now besides just earrings and bracelets, she's doing scarves, she's doing handbags. Her products have been in Macy's. She's a part of a TV show that's about to come on HBO in the next few weeks. And literally today, as we take this, she debuts on HSN. And the thing that's special about her debuting on HSN is what she's been doing for the last few years has been practically having her own HSN on Facebook. Every Wednesday night, she goes live on her Facebook page for Sassy Jones doing something that she calls a sparkle party. And she's trademarked the name. On that sparkle party, she sells 5 figures, right? Well into the 5 figures worth of accessories, earrings, like I said, bracelets, bangles, handbags, all these items to her raving fans and customers. Now, the reason I talk about why this gets me so excited, it totally shows you the power of the internet. Here's somebody that was able to carve out her piece of the internet, that was able to over-deliver to her customers when it comes to value, when it comes to she knows their style, when it comes to helping them out and really creating a lifestyle brand, and did so well that then HSN and companies like that had to tap her and say, hey, can you do the same thing you're doing on our platform? And when I met Sharice years ago, this was a dream of hers. Like, she said, hey, I will be on HSN one day. And when I looked at the business, I said, well, you definitely will. And the benefit of it is, while most people try to get on an HSN or a QVC and the network is trying to guess whether they'll be good or not, you literally have the data. You can go and say, hey, you know what? We've been doing this for 52 weeks a year, right? For so many years. And this is what the sales look like. This is how many visitors we had. This is how many people engaged. This is how many comments we had. And again, that is the power of the internet. That's the power of us being able to do things online and then actually get the analytics and data from it. So we can create our own customer bases. We can then sell to those people and then leverage those things that we're doing and take them up to bigger platforms using what we've done in the past.
So Lamar, is your background in internet, or did you and your wife have any experience or mentoring centered around building your business?
So I'm a first generation entrepreneur. My wife, her father had a carpet cleaning business, so she was probably more versatile than me, but she's not an entrepreneur. She was not an entrepreneur. I had to drag her. Her claws were in corporate America. I had to drag her out to say, please help me, because I needed her skill set in the business. She's a project manager by trade. She worked 17 years with IBM. Me, I had an IT background. I ran an IT department at a TV station. It was the last, full-time job I had before I went full-time into the business, which has been 10 years ago now. 10 years ago, I made the jump. But literally, we had to figure out how to do this thing. And one of the things I always say is that I don't want entrepreneurs to do what we did. We did it the hard way. The hard way was trying to figure out every single thing on our own. Like I said, we didn't have mentors. It took us a while before we started hiring coaches and consultants and people that literally had the answers. And that's what I want to tell everybody that's listening. There is someone out there that has the answer to your question right now that literally can help you shortcut the process. And it is a shortcut in business. That's getting educated and getting around people that have the answers. With us, we didn't either realize it or we didn't know what we didn't know. So literally, we stumbled through for probably the first 7 years in business. And what it took as far as time for us to achieve, we achieved in the first 7 years. We probably could have got done in half of that time if we just connected with the right people up front that could have said, hey, don't do this instead. Hey, I've done this in the past and I've had success. I want you to do it too. And now we try to help other entrepreneurs do so they don't go through the same things that we did.
You also have a brand, Tyler News Media. You're also in Atlanta with Tyler Perry. Talk about that. Do people think that you're connected to Tyler Perry, or how do you separate that?
Yeah, well, when like I mentioned, we've done 7 full of documentary films. We would do films and we would do our own screenings. So we would do our own anywhere between 7 to 10 city tours. Every time we released a movie, we would go to places like DC, Atlanta, Chicago, Houston, Dallas, St. Louis, Baltimore, all over, right? We would do screenings. And a lot of times we would get in there, people say, hey, are you related to Tyler Perry? And we say, no. Because for one, Tyler's my last name and Tyler is his first name. So not related to him in any way. But I do admire the jobs that he's created. More than anything, more than just the films and stuff like that. What I do admire is how many people he's been able to support through his vision, how many jobs he's created. And what I actually think Tyler Perry's biggest legacy will not be his actual body of work in his films, but we'll see probably a generation from now, these hundreds or thousands of people that he ends up employing, how many of them will go on to be directors and producers and executive producers and people in the industry that otherwise may not have had a shot or a chance to do the work that they're doing. And for them to see up front that, hey, guess what? If he did it, I can do it too. And then catapult from his vision into visions of their own.
Lamar, speaking of legacy, when it's all said and done, how do you want to be remembered?
That's a great question. I think when it's all said and done, what I want to do is I want to be somebody that moves the needle forward for my community. I want people to be able to say, okay, that couple, right, me and my wife, Ronnie, and what they've built, that couple and what they've built, they've been able to really transform what it looks like inside of our community. They've been able to not just create jobs and opportunities for themselves and the people directly around them, but they've been able to build up other companies that have created jobs and opportunities. And like I said, begin to really create a shift. And I'm talking about a shift, like I said, not just shift around jobs, but a shift around wealth. And what does wealth look like? What does opportunity look like? And how can we actually close the gap between us and others so that we're not the last or the least, but we're in competitive nature and competition right along with other ethnic groups or backgrounds that we have here in the country.
Talk about your top 2 influencers and what lessons did they teach you?
That's a great question, right? I probably say that the top 2 influencers I have, one is, and these are people from afar. So I'm a big reader. I love reading books. And I've probably been most encouraged by reading books about successful people that I want to kind of model and emulate. One of them was John H. Johnson from Johnson Publishing. And I read his autobiography and it just years ago, and it just really moved me when I saw what he was able to do in the time that he actually did it with. And he went on to create, of course, Jet Magazine and Johnson Magazine and Fashion Fair Cosmetics and all these different things. But in reading his story and all the things that he had to overcome, from poverty, right? From racial injustice, like just so many different things he had to overcome, and saying and looking at what he built in the magnitude. He built a company where if I built a company that size now of what he built in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, I'd be one of, a huge success story, not just for the Black community, but for America. So to think that he did it back then is really something that blows my mind and is mind-boggling. To think that, hey, they had a office building on Michigan Avenue in Chicago that they built with their company name on it. Like, that is just phenomenal. So reading stories like that really, really motivates me. And somebody else is the late Earl Graves Sr. from Black Enterprise Magazine. I mean, when I was growing up, like I said, I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs. So where I got my vision of entrepreneurship was from Black Enterprise Magazine. And I don't remember how I first kind of ran across it, but I would get it and read it and say, one day I want to be on the cover of that magazine. I would look through their B100 list of the country's biggest Black companies. And I would look through and read and say, I want to be one of these companies one day. And just the stories inside of it would motivate me and inspire me to know that, hey, guess what? Again, if other people did it, then I can do it too. And they literally have laid the groundwork and the foundation for me to now stand on their shoulders and create the next version and the next iteration of what entrepreneurship looks like in our community.
Speaking of books, what are you reading now and why?
Great question. What I'm reading now, I finished just recently a book by Brian Tracy called Focus, right? And it's a short book. And I read another one by him called Eat the Frog. But I'm reading these short books on kind of focus and really drilling in to what your goals are. Because I think one of the problems that plagues entrepreneurs is that we lack focus a lot of times because we have so many different ideas. And there's so many different things we want to do. And one day we're doing this, the next day we're doing that, the third day somebody comes with an opportunity. But what I found is that if we really focus in on the things that we're trying to do, we set a goal and we go after that goal strategically, then it really catapults everything else that we're doing. And one of my good friends, Freddie Taylor, he always says that when you focus, right, focus pays with compound interest, right? The dividends of it are compounding when you literally focus in and lock in on something. So focus has been the most recent one I've read. Like I said, really just trying to make sure we lock in and get crystal clear on what it is that we're doing, and then we go after it.
Talk about being this dynamic dual couple and working together with your wife, Ronnie.
Sure. Well, always talk about the fact that she's the perfect complement for me in the business because she's my total opposite. And where I've always been, hey, I'm an entrepreneur. I've been looking for the path to entrepreneurship probably since I was in 6th grade, right? It took me a while to find out exactly what it was. I've done a bunch of businesses. She had one job. She left college and had one job working for one company for 17 years. And like I said, and didn't really want to leave, right? But I just begged and pleaded her to kind of come over to this side. Now she'll never go back, but, I pulled her to this side. Where I'm the visionary and I have all the big ideas, Ronnie, because she's a project manager, is actual the implementer. She can help me take those ideas and get them into an actual plan and say, all right, first quarter we're doing this, second quarter we're doing that. These are all the actual pieces. I say, it's not a big deal. We better do that. It don't need a lot. And then when she breaks out the pieces, it's like 42 different things that has to be done. And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe it is a lot after all, right? So, we kind of bounce off each other back and forth in that way. But also what I tell people is that being able to work with your spouse, we feel like gives you an exponential advantage. And not just, it's another person. So, 1 + 1 is 2, but literally exponential, because now you have two people that should have the same goal moving towards the same place. And even if I pick up just like a regular business partner that's opposite, that business partner could be all in on the business, but in the back of their mind, what they're trying to achieve for their life could be different from me. They might want to say, hey, you know what, I only want to do this for the next 5 or 10 years and I want to exit and then move to another country with my family. I may be thinking, hey, this is a legacy play and I want to have this business for 40 years and then hand it down to my kids. And those two things that we're thinking about can really conflict. But with my wife, hopefully we should have the same vision for our family. And then what we can do is use the business to actually execute the vision we have for our family through that.
Talk about that jump when you left your job, and then talk about when Ronnie left her job in reference to what was the timeline.
Sure. So I left my job in 2010, and it became a point where I just couldn't do both. I couldn't do my job and the business anymore because the business was growing. And I tell, most entrepreneurs that are working 9 to 5, if your business is growing, you'll get somewhere to where you going to work every day begins to stifle the business. Like the business can no longer grow because it's grown as far as it can grow without your full-fledged attention. And you'll also get to a point where if the business is growing, you aren't doing a good job at work anymore because the business is just like taking up your time or your mind space. So you just can't do both. And for me, that happened in 2010, and I took the jump and leap then. It probably took about 2 to 3 years later before Ronnie to come fully on board and where we grew the revenue in the business to where it actually could sustain both of us. When I left and when she left, one of the things I often tell people is that the business had not grown to a point where it could replace our income. So a lot of people, they're thinking like, hey, if I get paid this amount, I want the business to pay me that amount. That is not what the business could do. When we left, the business did enough to be able to pay the bills. But what we also said is that, hey, if we're all in on this thing, we should be able to get exponential growth based on where we are, because right now we're working this business in the worst hours of our day. We had 4 small children under the age of 12 when I left. And at that time, I couldn't start working the business until after the kids went to sleep. So 9, 10 o'clock every night to 2, 3 in the morning, falling asleep on the keyboard and sending people emails in the middle of the night, right? That they sent me like at 10 a.m. and I'm just responding at 10 or 11 p.m. And then it's taking a whole other day cycle. So we literally had to say, hey, you know what? I think if we can really focus in on this thing, we can hit the next level. And we really can push forward. We'll have more time to dedicate to it. And we did it and we saw the results. Now, the problem that a lot of people face is that when they leave, they have that time, but they don't use it constructively. Now they have a lot of time, but they may be on social media, and not on social media making money, but just on social media hanging out. So we had to get real clarity around that and make sure we didn't fall in that same trap. And one of the things I always tell entrepreneurs they should do is what we did. As soon as I started working from home, in my home office, I had a whiteboard. On that whiteboard, I wrote down the question, what are you doing to make money today? I'll repeat that. What are you doing to make money today? And as I kind of, thought that out and I wrote it down, I had to get crystal clear about every day doing something that was a money generating activity. that was going to drive some type of income into the business, and not just a plan for, hey, this is going to pay off next year, but hey, we got bills coming up next month. So what are some things that we're doing that are going to pay off in the next 7 days, or for the next 14 days, for the next 30 days to continue to drive revenue in so that we can support our family?
Lamar, what problem exists in the world today that you would like to solve?
One of them is unemployment in the African-American community. And, it's a higher rate than it should be in the African-American community. And what I always talk about, I think that number is high because most people hire people that look like them, right? And I know there are a lot of diversity initiatives and things like that, but I think most people hire people, when it comes down to it, that look like them, that they can relate with, that they are used to being around. And the problem is that 9 out of 10 Black businesses are solopreneurships, meaning they don't have employees. So if they don't have employees, they can't hire people that look like them because they're not hiring anyone. So one of our real missions as we build up entrepreneurs is to not just build them up and, everybody's talking about having a lifestyle business, right? I want to live a laptop lifestyle. And I want to, work 2 days and be on the beach with a pina colada in my laptop. What we're saying is, hey, we want you to build businesses where you actually reach back into the community and employ other people, right? And the thing I love about that is a lot of times that I know when we employ other people, we're giving somebody a chance that probably wouldn't get a fair shake in another company or another situation. Or it may be limitations to how high they can move up in the company. So we really are giving opportunity and chance, like I said, to people in the community that if we help them, then they can help their families, and then they can reach back and help others as well.
Talk about that person in your lineage that has inspired you the most.
That's a great question. I'd probably say for me, it probably was my grandfather. My grandfather was from here, actually, Georgia, right? I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area in Prince George County, Maryland, but now I live in Georgia. My grandfather originally is from Georgia, and he left here early. I think he actually lied on the paperwork so he actually could join the military early. He wasn't old enough yet, but fudged it a little bit so that he could get in. Was a World War II veteran, went on, even with an 8th grade education, went on to really be not just a pillar of our family, but a pillar of the community, right? The local church, the people in the area in the town of Alexandria, Virginia, where he lived at, knew him. And really what it did is he really modeled to me what manhood was, how to be there and be a pillar for your family, how to be a pillar for those around you and the people that leaned on you, and always respected that. I love that. And I would look and say, when he passed in the early to mid 90s, I would look and say, what, that's how I want to be measured as a man when I'm older and when I grow up. And the way I looked at him and the way people looked at him at his death, I said, what, if I can live a life like that, where I looked at and regarded in that same fashion, I would have done a good job.
Advice you wish you had followed?
Oh, that's a good question. It probably would have been, because I'm sure, like I said, I think one of the things that slowed our business growth down, like I said, was not getting around people that had the answers. And I'm sure sometimes somebody probably told us to get a coach to just hire somebody. But I think because, me and Ronnie are both smart people, we thought we could do a lot of things ourselves. And, as it leans out, it's not even always about what you can and can't do. It's just about the fact that you can't do it all. Or if you can do it all, you can't do it all in a timely fashion. So I really wish, like I said, that we would have leaned on other people earlier. We would have brought on team earlier. We would have got with consultants and coaches earlier to really propel the business forward.
Talk to a younger Lamar. What advice would you give to a younger you?
Great question. What advice would I give to a younger me? What I would tell a younger me is to take your time. I think when I was younger, I had a lot of goals for myself, and not just bad to have goals, but I would say, hey, I want to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30. I want to be on the cover of Black Enterprise magazine by the time I'm this and that. And I would think about all these different things, but a lot of them didn't happen the way I wanted them to happen. But what I would say is that, we still built the business. I still built the life I love, and it's all good. And I think a lot of times we put undue pressure on ourselves to say that, hey, we have all these things we want to do, and if we don't do them by the time we want to do them in, maybe we aren't as successful as we should be or successful as we could be. But really, everything happens in due time. And I'm a big believer that everything that happens in your life leads up to the moment we're in right now. And it's all about how you leverage those experiences in the past in order to catapult yourself forward in the future.
What are you most grateful for right now in your life?
What I'm most grateful for is my family and the people around me, really. I definitely would say, right, my wife, I'm blessed to have a wife where we can work together. A lot of people always ask, probably number one question couples ask, like, how in the world do y'all work together, right? Not kill each other and always at each other's throats. And sometimes we have some intense business discussions, but all in all, we really love each other. And I know that she knows I have her interests, her best interests, and the interests of the family at heart. And I think she knows, I do the same. So being able to really come together in that type of partnership is great. Having a family and kids around it. And then, like I said, being able to impact other families as well. I'm truly grateful for that.
Are your children involved in the business at all?
They are to a degree. The younger ones, all of them we've had doing different things in the business, from working conferences to packaging up DVDs and shipping movies and books and things like that. So none of them work full time in the business, because a lot of them still younger too, but we do have them involved. And they say they don't want anything to do with the business when they get older, but hopefully as they get older and mature, they'll see, hey, it's a great asset and a great opportunity right here for the family. So we'll let them hang loose for a couple of years and then hopefully bring them back into what we're doing.
Lamar, what can we do right now to support your business?
Awesome. Great question. What you can do is two things. We have a free Facebook group where it's a community. We do trainings, we do resources and everything in it. It's called Traffic, Sales, and Profit with Lamar Tyler. Traffic, Sales, and Profit with Lamar Tyler. You can join the group. Like I said, we just did a free challenge for business owners, 7-day challenge, teaching them how to build their businesses. We do Black Friday trainings. We do all types of information to just help them build and grow. Then in addition to that, what I have available right now is I actually have a free copy of my paperback book, my latest book, Traffic, Sales, and Profit, the ultimate step-by-step guide to creating consistent business revenue online. Everybody that's listening, get a hold of that when they go to www.freetspbook.com, like Traffic, Sales, and Profit, freetspbook.com. All you do is pay shipping and handling, and I'll actually send a paperback copy of the book, because I want to get it in your hands to transform what you're doing with your business.
How do you feel about the person you have become?
Pleased with the person I've become, but I still feel like I have more growth to do, and not just business growth, but personal development growth. I want to be a better man. I want to be a better husband. I want to be a better entrepreneur. So that's why I read. That's why I try to, do personal development. I'm going to conferences, picking up on stuff, attending workshops and seminars, because I want to make sure I'm still pushing to be the best version of myself.
What is your hope for your generation?
My hope for the generation is that we kind of move everything forward. I think so many generations before ours have made major sacrifices that allowed us to get to the point that we're at today. So what I want to make sure that my generation does is we keep it advancing everything forward. Like when I talk about closing the wealth gap, when I talk about, ending or lessening the impact of racial and social injustice. And I just want to make sure that hopefully my generation sets the next generation up by putting them in a better place than we are in today.
Is there a social cost tied to your business?
One of the things that we do, right, we say through Traffic, Sales, and Profit, we want to support nonprofits and community organizations that normally lack funding and resources. So what we've done the last 3 in-person conferences we had before we had to kind of slow everything down due to COVID is that we actually raised funds for nonprofits that impacted, inner city African-American communities. So through our last 3 events, we raised a total of $70,000, I believe, is where we're at right now, that we were able to funnel into 2 different nonprofits. One was Young Doctors DC, that actually teaches young African-American men more about the actual medical profession, that couples them up with doctors. They do a overnight trip to Howard University and really just engages them about what it's like to be a medical doctor, to open up their eyes to some things. And the other is an amazing organization in Chicago called the Great Mad Experience, that actually teaches young people about entrepreneurship, that lets them actually begin to build their own business. They get to pitch their own business, and then they either get money in the form of a scholarship for college or in the form of seed money and capital to actually launch the business that they have worked on.
Speaking of building and community, there are so many people that are suffering now through COVID-19 with food insecurities, homelessness. Talk to someone in the audience that's listening and they are at the brink of no return, and they need a solution to bring in extra income. What advice would you give them, Lamar?
Like I said, I would do what I talked about earlier and look and say, all right, what opportunities are available now? What do people need right now? When all this started, there were people that were able to really make a lot of money, just to be honest, right? That pivoted and said, all right, I can create hand sanitizer because there was a shortage of it. There were people that were able to sell PPE materials. There were people that were able to make fabric scarves that just could sew and make fabric scarves. And I know they were sold out. They literally couldn't get fabric. They literally couldn't keep up with demand. So look around you and see what opportunities are there. Also, what I would look to do, and this is pretty practical, it's something called affiliate marketing online on the internet, where literally you don't even have to have your own product. you can just find somebody else with a product and sell their product and get an actual commission for it. So really leveraging, like a lot of us spend a lot of time online, but making sure we're being intentional about the time we spend online, not just to connect and play and joke around with old classmates or friends or family, but how can I actually leverage what's going on online in order to build a business, to build revenue, to build more of a lifestyle that I may not have, or to kind of hedge against some of the things that may be happening.
Let's switch gears for a moment. Talk about the worst moment in business and what was your takeaway?
Great question. Worst moment in business. I'd probably say one of worst moments in business probably was with our Black and Married with Kids brand. I think we had gotten to a point, we had staff and we had people, but the industry started to shift. And a lot of it was based on, social media and trends and things like that. And Facebook began to change. Well, a lot of our traffic and people would find us through Facebook. But Facebook began to change where they stopped doing everything. And they stopped letting people access your page unless you actually paid through advertising for them to see it. So we basically went from having ability to post something on our Facebook page and having, 25, 30,000 people see it, which would also, get people to click through on it, to maybe we post something only 5,000 people would see it. And then we post something only 1,500 people would see it. So it created a major, downward spin in the amount of people that actually visit our website until we had to repivot and do some different things. But in that time, what I realized is that we had a lot of administrative positions, not necessarily sales positions, meaning that the people that we had on staff, their ability to get paid didn't factor into the actual performance of the business. So if the business did great, they got paid this amount. If the business did bad, they got paid this amount. And literally was like their positions weren't tied. Like they were, writers, it was administrators, it was editors, it were admins. And we basically had a team that was not in any way hooked into the actual success of the site. So for me, there was a learning lesson to say, hey, you know what? When we hire and when we hire back, and we kind of just got out of it just through grace, right? I think we had one person need to go to school. So she wanted to go to get her master's, and then she got accepted to a school and she couldn't do the commute. So she left. We had somebody else that wanted to work from home. So they left. So naturally, like the team just kind of went down. We didn't have to fire anybody, lay anybody off. But in that, I learned a valuable lesson that I should have people on the team. There'll be some administrative positions, no doubt, but I should have some people on the team that literally the more they work, the more money we make. And really when I was able to rebuild and reshape the company, that's what it was now. Now we have on the traffic sales and profit side, we have people that coach entrepreneurs. So those coaches, like as long as they're coaching entrepreneurs, we're making money, right? Because those entrepreneurs are paying us. We started to do some development when we were developing websites and things like that for people. And for that person developing a website, every time they're working on that website and that website is done, guess what? We get a check at the end of it. So literally just beginning to reshape who we had and the structure of the company and the structure who was inside of it. And what could have been a very bad experience, turning it into a learning experience, being able to move forward from there.
Talk about your greatest achievements in life or business.
Awesome. Greatest achievement in life. I would probably say my greatest achievement in life has definitely been just our marriage, probably, right? So I'll answer both. The greatest achievement in life has probably been our marriage, because we've been able through our marriage to hopefully set a blueprint for our children of what healthy, happy relationship looks like. So hopefully they can model that and do some of the same things. But then also the amount of people we've been able to impact together through the business, through life, just by being together and working together in the way that we have. Through business, I probably would say the greatest impact has been being able to build other people that build other people. And what that means is, Traffic Sales and Profit, we have awards that we give out for 6-figure businesses and 7-figure businesses inside of our programs. And years ago, there were no 7-figure businesses. Then last year we had we've grown to 7-figure businesses inside of our programs. This past year we gave out awards, there were 14 of them. And the same thing with the 6-figure businesses. Like last year we had 17 6-figure businesses. This year we had 40. And when we do that, like I said, when those businesses grow, it's being able to see that people that were working a 9-to-5 are now able to just live fully and do their life's mission work, right? But just not that only did they do it, how it changes the impact of their family around them. Now, their kids, a lot of their kids, they're younger, will never even know what it was like when daddy or mommy was away at work all day and was barely home, because all they know now is mom and dad working the business full time and being around full time, being able to come to the school when we can't go to the school, right? Being able to come to the school for programs and things during the day, being able to hang out at the office, right, during the time. So it literally just not just changes that person, but their whole family around them. And then, like I said, the fact that we have people that we work with that now have 30 and 40 employees. And like I said, we look at not just their impact, but the economic impact and impact now to have it on 30 or 40, not just people, but those people's families as well. So, being able to kind of build up other people and put them in a position to win is probably my greatest business accomplishment.
Lamar, what, if anything, keeps you up at night?
What, if anything, keeps me up at night? Not a lot, to tell you the truth. Not a lot. I don't worry about a lot of stuff because I just think, hey, things are going to happen no matter what. So what I try to do is just mitigate what can happen, mitigate our risk on what could go wrong. And then when things go wrong, to me, it's just all about how you handle them. Or things happen in your life, it's about, just about how you handle them and make sure we're moving forward. So not a lot kind of keeps me up or keeps me worried at night. It's just always making sure that we're trying to head and be headed in the right direction. What
do you dream about often that you have not done that you would like to do?
Awesome. What do I dream about often that we have not done? One of it is to grow. We do 2 conferences a year. And one of them is, we've grown to probably about 700-800 people. One of it is to grow one of those conferences like 3,000 to 5,000 people. And I think just the impact we could have by growing to that size would be phenomenal and impactful. One of it is like we just actually moved to a new office in a new building. One of it is I want to fill these seats up by giving more people opportunity and having more people that can work for us and build something special, for our community that we can really, run with and drive. And I want to, inside of the space, build brands that are iconic. Like I talked about John H. Johnson. People know a Jet magazine. They know Ebony magazine. And building things that are iconic that last long after you do.
And I don't know if the audience know, but Jet Ebony Media, they now have their own podcast space, and Black Entrepreneur Experience podcast. You can listen to it on Ebony Jet Media.
Awesome.
If someone wrote a book about you, what would the title be?
Oh, that's a good one. I don't know about that one. That is a good one. I don't know. I feel like if it was a book about me, it'd probably be me and Ronnie together on the cover of it, but I have no idea what the name of that would be. But I always tell people, if it's a movie, I want Denzel to play me. When they make the movie version, I want it to be Denzel.
Looking back, what are you most proud of?
Looking back, what I'm most proud of is probably literally like what we built. Like I feel like we literally have built something that means a lot, not just to us, but to other people. And I that makes me proud. And that makes all the long nights, all of the hard work, because it is a lot of hard work to build a business. I think a lot of times we gloss over that, or people are looking on people's Instagram or they're just reading stories in the magazine and they think it's so easy and it seems all so attractive. But anyone that's a successful entrepreneur has put some sweat equity into building that. They've taken some risk that other people may not feel comfortable with taking, right? And been able to do it and create something special out of it. And they probably had to overcome some challenges along the way as well. Some things that didn't work right, some launches that didn't go well, some products that nobody purchased and bought when they thought that everybody would purchase and buy them. So really just looking back and seeing those things.
Lamar, talk about self-care. What does self-care look like to you?
Sure. So to me, self-care looks like just trying to make sure that I'm doing things to recharge, right? And for us, like it's been a crazy hectic year because of COVID and all the things going on. We've ramped up our activity of what we've done to not just keep our business in the black, but to support other businesses that come under us and work with us as well. So I just was telling my wife, hey, at the end of this year, I think I really want to just take some time off so that I can just recharge and come back fresh and renewed for 2021. And on a big scale, it may be, hey, taking a week or two off and going somewhere, going to the beach and just laying down and resting just to get recharged up. On a smaller basis, it may mean, hey, like going out and playing golf and then they just get away from the computer for a while and being outside, getting fresh air, to even on a daily basis, that can look like working out, or could look like, reading every day, or could look like meditation or prayer. And literally just making sure you got those moments on a small scale or on a huge grand scale so that you can unplug, disconnect, recharge, and then get your head back into the game.
You talked about your conferences. Did you take your conferences virtually?
We did. So for the first time ever, because before it was like, hey, you had to just be here. There was no live stream. For the first time ever, we took our conference virtual this summer, and then we actually added an additional conference. So now we've done 2 virtual conferences. And because of the way things stacking up, look like we may have a third one coming. But it showed us some different things that we could do that we weren't even, aware of that we could do from a technical standpoint. We had to figure out how to create that same experience that people get in person online. And I think it's made us a stronger business. So earlier I talked about the fact that how can you take what's going on now and use it and leverage it to actually come out stronger on the back end. This is how you do it, or what you can do to kind of get it done. Because even when things go back to normal, there's still some components of what we are doing now, or what we found that we'll continue to do because it's worked so well.
Speaking of technology, talk about a technology tool or a technology platform that is a must-have for managing your business day to day.
Awesome. I would say for us, a must-have tool, but for me, it's like my favorite thing is just my calendar. Like my calendar is I just live by my calendar. So every night I look at the calendar for the next day. Every morning I look at the calendar to see what's going on. Like if it ain't on the calendar, it don't happen. So my calendar is really my thing. But beyond that, some of the big tools is our CRM system, right, for our business. So customer relationship management, that's where all of the emails are stored. That's where all of the purchases are stored. That's where all like the history of anybody that kind of comes into our spirit is stored in there. And then we can, use that data if we need to pull reports and try to figure out what to sell, how to sell it, what should we be doing. And then also when we email and communicate with people and things like that. And then just the day-to-day is Zoom, right? A lot of people using Zoom now. We were using Zoom before just to communicate with people, whether it's internal meetings, right? We would do Zoom internally every day. We're doing with customers. I'll do online trainings through Zoom. But really it's just a great platform to be able to connect with people outside of your space as if they were right there in front of you.
Lamar, if you conducted this interview, what is the one question you would have asked yourself? I want you to ask the question and answer it.
Maybe I would have just asked, you pretty much asked all the questions. Maybe I would just ask, and I'm going to say this because I don't think you asked it yet. It's probably your next question is, what's next for us? And when I talk about what's next for us, we're going to actually revamp and reinvigorate our Black and Married with Kids brand next year. So starting the kind of first quarter of 2021, we'll be, it's still there, right? We still create content. We'll be adding a lot more video to it, a lot more video storytelling and cinematic style video storytelling we'll do there. And then with traffic, sales, and profit, we'll really want to double the size of that community. We got that Facebook group I talked about before that's free, and I want everybody to join. We have almost 18,000 people in it. So really want to double the size of that group to like 36,000, 40,000 people, because we're seeing the impact that it's having right now. And we want to magnify that out to the masses.
We've come to the part of our interview. It's called Fun Facts Lightning Round. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. I want you to answer the questions very quickly. If there's something you desire not to answer, feel free to say pass. Lamar, Are you ready for the Fun Facts Lightning Round?
I'm ready.
The last movie you saw?
I don't know. I've seen some stuff, but I don't know the name of it, right? We've been in this funny space where we haven't been able to go to them. Like me and my wife, we used to actually go to them. We like going to the movies, but we've been like buying stuff on demand, and I never know what the name of these movies are. But I'll tell you, okay, the last real good movie I saw streamed online was The Banker. How about that? With Anthony Mackie and Samuel Jackson.
You relax doing what?
Watching TV. Just sitting back, watching TV, laying down.
What food you eat every week, no matter what?
Cereal.
Your first job?
My first job was a host at Denny's restaurant.
Your favorite singer or rapper?
My favorite singer would be Jill Scott.
Your favorite dance song?
My favorite dance song is Al Green's Love and Happiness, and it's kind of just like a two-step. So it ain't like a real lot of heavy dancing, like a two-step. Love and Happiness, I can two-step to that.
Your favorite month?
My favorite month is December because that is my birthday and my wife's birthday month together. Our birthdays are 2 days apart, so we always celebrate together and take time off.
Work out or hit the couch?
Depending on what month you ask me. I'm like, I'm working out some months and I'm hitting the couch other months. So depending on what month you ask me. Lately, I've been in hit the couch mode. I need to get back in workout mode.
Lamar Taylor, thank you so much for joining us on Black Entrepreneur Experience Podcast. Before we let you go, why don't you share with our audience the best way that they can connect with you? And feel free to leave all your social media handles.
Sure. On social media, you can just find me at Lamar Tyler. That's LamarTyler on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere else, just at Lamar Tyler. And connect with us. Visit our website. It's Traffic, Sales, and Profit. That's A&D. TrafficSalesAndProfit.com. On that, you can find more information and links to the free Facebook group I mentioned. You can find links and access to the free paperback copy of the book that I mentioned. along with more information on our programs like our TSP Mastermind and other things that we offer, the conferences, workshops, and everything else.
Thank you, Lamar. That's a wrap.
All right. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Our guests have sent us so much swag, books, and giveaways this year. I can't wait to announce our monthly winner. So if you want exclusive content delivered right to your inbox and to enter into our monthly drawing, go to drfrancisrichards.com and subscribe to our mailing list. That's drfrancisrichards.com. drfrancisrichards.com. That's drfrancisrichards.com and subscribe to our mailing list. We promise we will not spam you or sell your information.
Thank you for listening and subscribing to Black Entrepreneur Experience. We would love for you to leave a review and rating on iTunes and share with your friends. For show notes and more episodes, go to www.beepodcast.com. Join us next Wednesday, and remember, green is the new black. So keep your bank accounts and your business in the black.